An archaeological mission from the Ain Shams University has uncovered a Roman-era Sphinx during excavations at the Dendera temple complex, located in the Kina Governorate of Egypt. The Temple of Dendera is a large ceremonial complex covering an area of 9.8 acres. The complex is centered on the Hathor Temple, a sanctuary which has been modified on the same site since the Middle Kingdom, until the time of the Roman Emperor Trajan. Recent excavations led by Dr. Mamdouh El-Damati, a former antiquities minister and a professor of archaeology at Cairo's Ain Shams University, revealed a Roman structure in an area east of the main complex, where a temple dedicated to Horus is located. The structure is built using limestone and mortar, consisting of 2 levels. The lower level contains a large basin for collecting water from the Byzantine period, where the researchers found a Roman-era Sphinx statue. The Sphinx is shown wearing a nemes, a royal headdress worn by pharaohs to symbolize their rule. Above the forehead is an uraeus, an Egyptian cobra used as a symbol of sovereignty, royalty, deity and divine authority. Preliminary inspection of the Sphinx's face suggests that the Sphinx is a depiction of the Roman Emperor Claudius. The ministry's statement read, Claudius ruled Egypt from around 10 BC to AD 54, which at the time was under Roman rule. As pharaoh of Egypt, Claudius adopted the royal titulary Tiberios Claudios, autocrator Hekahekau Mariusepta, Canik Gedi Actuemikit, Tiberius Claudius, emperor and ruler of rulers, beloved of Isis and Pa, the strong bull of the stable moon on the horizon. The statue is really beautiful. Its face is characterized by royal features that are depicted quite precisely, Dr. El-Damati said. The traces of a smile can be seen on the edges of its mouth, which has a dimple on either side. There are traces of yellow and red in the face.
Figurines of deities and priests as well as vessels with a breast motif are among several hundred items discovered by archaeologists at an ancient garbage dump in Egypt. Polish researchers at the Temple of Hatshepsut in Luxor in the south of the country came across the extraordinary find while working on the reconstruction of the 3,500-year-old chapel of the goddess Hathor. Exploring a tomb carved into the rock face, the team from the Polish Center of Mediterranean Archaeology first came across the rubbish dump. Head of research Dr. Patrick Chudzik said, "We were concerned that our work could lead to the collapse of the tomb ceiling, which is why we wanted to secure it. After entering we found that it had never been studied and cleaned, because the debris stacked up to a height of about half a meter. Buried within the rubble, they came across the ancient artifacts." Chudzik said, "The amount and quality of the artifacts we have found is astounding. They include a wooden figurine most likely depicting the owner of the tomb with a wig on his head. Other items discovered included dozens of women figurines, as well as ceramic flasks with breast motifs and floral patterns symbolizing the rebirth of the land of the dead, and cow figurines from the early 18th dynasty, the period of the New Kingdom." According to Dr. Chudzik, these were offerings to the Egyptian goddess Hathor. He said, "The offerings were made by local residents asking Hathor for support. After a while, there were too many of them and priests and temple staff had to clear them. We have already known a few places right at the temple entrance gates, where they were disposed of. Now we have discovered another, previously unknown place." The tomb was originally discovered in the late 19th century by Professor Henri-Edouard Neville. However, the information he published about it was quite scarce. The researcher mentioned the rubble filling the tomb, but did not mention any excavations conducted in this place. Archaeologists from an American expedition working at the Temple of Hatshepsut in 1920s also missed this precious rubble. It appears that the rubble with votive offerings to Hathor remained intact since the time of the deposit, almost 3,500 years ago. Polish researchers have been working at the Temple of Hatshepsut since 1961, when Professor Kazimierz Michalowski founded Polish-Egyptian Archaeology and Conservation Expedition. Since then, archaeologists, restorers and architects associated with the Polish Center of Mediterranean Archaeology have been working on documentation and reconstruction of the temple. Currently, their efforts are focused on rebuilding the Hathor shrine. Partly underneath it there is a tomb carved the rock, which they recently explored. The tomb is carved in the rock. It consists of a passage more than 15 meters long which leads to a chamber with a recess in the stone floor where the coffin with the body of the owner of the tomb was originally placed. The discovery was made in research carried out in the spring of 2021. This season, the experts intend to support the ceiling of the tomb to enable reconstruction work in the Hathor shrine located above it.
Archaeologists have discovered more than 13 ancient Egyptian coffins piled one on top of the other within a burial well at the desert necropolis of Saqqara, according to the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities. The 2,500-year-old wooden coffins are so well preserved that the intricate designs on them, painted in blue, gold, white, black and red, are still visible. The identity of the deceased who were buried within the coffins remains a mystery. Archaeologists have yet to look inside the sealed coffins, which haven't been opened since the bodies were interred within, the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities reported in a September 6 Facebook post. Archaeologists found the coffins in a well measuring nearly 40 feet, 11 meters, deep. It's likely that more of these coffins will be found within the niches located along the sides of the well, the ministry noted. These newfound coffins are the largest finding at Saqqara, since 30 wooden coffins were discovered in a cache at Al-Asasif Cemetery within the necropolis in October 2019, the ministry said. The newly discovered stacked coffins, and even the cache at Al-Asasif, are just a few of the vast number of human and animal remains discovered at Saqqara, a gigantic necropolis and pyramid complex at Memphis, the first capital of Egypt, according to the American Research Center in Egypt, ARS, which wasn't involved in the new find. Located about 20 miles 30 kilometers south of Cairo, Saqqara was also the final resting place of the kings who ruled during the 1st and 2nd dynasties, including Djoser, the first king of the 3rd dynasty, who had the famous stepped pyramid at Saqqara, constructed to house his remains, Ars reported. Egypt faced tumultuous political change when the recently discovered deceased were alive in about 500 BC. In 525 BC, the king of Persia, known as Cambyses II, conquered Egypt and incorporated it into the Persian Empire, according to Encyclopaedia Britannica. During this period of Persian rule, recognized as Dynasty 27, the Persians exercised their power through a resident governor, known as a satrap, according to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. During this time, some Persian rulers invested in Egypt. For instance, when the Persian king Darius I ruled from 522 to 486 BC, held power, Egypt thrived as the Persians ordered the construction of temples and public works, redid the legal system and strengthened the economy, the Met reported. Persian rule ended in 404 BC, when local Egyptians took back the throne.
A team of Polish and Armenian archaeologists have discovered a tomb at the Metzimer archaeological site, containing ornate golden necklaces that date from the Bronze Age. The Metzimer archaeological site is located near the village of Taranik, in the Armavir province of Armenia, where the oldest trace of human settlement dates from the 4th millennium BC. During the Copper Age, in the Bronze Age and early Iron Ages, the site became an important religious and economic center, developing into a city with many temples and sanctuaries, fortified by a citadel and cyclopean walls, and an advanced economy based on metallurgical production. Recent excavations have uncovered a sunken chamber framed by large stones, containing the remains of a wooden burial and 2 skeletons who died at the age of 30 to 40 years old during the Late Bronze Age, around 1300–1200 BC. Archaeologists also found over 100 beads made from gold and carnelian which formed 3 necklaces, as well as golden pendants, a dozen complete ceramic vessels, and a unique faience flask imported from the Syrian-Mesopotamian borderland. The tomb was found in a necropolis where over 100 graves have already been examined, with only several having been looted during antiquity. Metzimer is a protected archaeological site with the status of an archaeological reserve. Excavations in the area have been carried out since 1965, uncovering other examples of gold necklaces and gilded belt fittings, with depictions of hunting lionesses. Archaeologists from the University of Leicester Archaeological Services have uncovered a 1,800-year-old altar stone from the Roman period during excavations in the grounds of Leicester Cathedral. Leicester was called Radi Tavrum or simply Radi during the Roman period. After the Roman conquest of Britain, a town was sited at an important river crossing along the Fosse Way, a major Roman road which linked Lincoln to the northeast with Exeter to the southwest. Roman occupation seems to have developed as a continuation of the existing Iron Age settlement, emerging as a major Roman center with a typical grid system, and numerous public buildings, such as a forum and basilica, the Jury Wall public baths, and at least one temple identified as a Mithraeum, dedicated to the Persian god Mithras. The altar stone was found in a cellar in the grounds of Leicester Cathedral, believed to be a shrine or cult room. The cellar measures 4 by 4 meters and is located 3 meters below the current ground level, or 1 meter below the contemporary Roman surface level. The cellar was built in the 2nd century AD, but was deliberately dismantled and infilled, probably in the late 3rd or 4th century. Excavations of the cellar revealed the base of an altar stone lying broken and face down amongst the rubble. The altar, which measures 25 centimeters by 15 centimeters, is carved from Dane Hills sandstone quarried locally and is decorated with moldings on 3 sides. Archaeologists from University of Leicester Archaeological Services suggest that the cellar was a private place of worship, either as a family shrine or cult room, where a small group of individuals shared in private worship. Underground chambers like this have often been linked with fertility and mystery cults, and the worship of gods such as Mithras, Cybele, Bacchus, Dionysius, and the Egyptian goddess Isis. In a press announcement, Euless said, "The discovery of a Roman altar at Leicester Cathedral, the first to ever be found in Leicester, is an amazing find for the Leicester Cathedral Revealed project. For centuries there has been a tradition that a Roman temple once stood on the site of the present cathedral." Egyptian antiquities officials say they have confirmed the existence of a hidden internal corridor above the main entrance of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Video from an endoscope showed the inside of the corridor, which is 9 meters 30 feet long and 2.1 meters 7 feet wide. The officials say it could have been created to redistribute the pyramid's weight around the entrance or another, as yet undiscovered chamber. It was first detected in 2016 using an imaging technique called muography. A team of scientists from the Scan Pyramids project were able to sense density changes inside the pyramid by analyzing how it was penetrated by muons, which are byproducts of cosmic rays that are only partially absorbed by stone. The non-invasive technique detected an empty space behind the northern face of the Great Pyramid, about 7 meters above the main entrance, in an area where there is a stone chevron structure. Further tests were carried out with radar and ultrasound before a 6 millimeters wide, 0.24 inches, endoscope was fed through a tiny joint in between the stones that make up the chevrons. The footage from the camera was unveiled at a news conference beside the pyramid on Thursday. It showed an empty corridor with walls made out of roughly hewn stone blocks and a vaulted stone ceiling. "We're going to continue our scanning, so we will see what we can do to figure out what we can find out beneath it, or just by the end of this corridor," said Mustafa Waziri, head of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities. The Great Pyramid, which is 146 meters high, was built on the Giza Plateau during the 4th dynasty by the pharaoh Khufu, or Cheops, who reigned from around 2609 BC to 2584 BC. Despite being one of the oldest and largest monuments on Earth, there is no consensus about how it was built. Egyptian archaeologist Zahi Hawass said the corridor represented a major discovery that would enter houses and homes of people all over the world for the first time. He also said that it might help reveal whether the burial chamber of King Khufu still existed inside the pyramid. He speculated that there might be something important in the space below the corridor, then added, "I'm sure in a few months from now we can see if what I'm saying is correct or not." A second, larger void inside the pyramid was detected using muography in 2017. It is estimated to be 30 meters long and several meters in height, and is located directly above the Grand Gallery.